Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 3 of the Halloween craft countdown for 2021. Today's craft is my favourite of the whole countdown and it is very, very special. So last year I did a Halloween themed off the mat wall art, which was loved by you guys. I mean, it was one of my most popular designs from all of last year's Halloween craft countdown. So I thought I'd do a different one this year, and this is what we have come up with. This gorgeous layered sign is perfect for fall or Thanksgiving. And the really nice thing is you can add any text you want in the sign at the bottom. I've put autumn blessings, but it does come blank, so you can put any saying in there you want. I'll show you how to do that in Cricut Design Space, but first grab the free SVG by clicking the link in the description of this video. Once you've downloaded the free SVG from my website, craftwithsarah.com, and opened it up in Design Space, it should come in looking something like this. Now, if you're not sure how to upload SVG files into Design Space or how to download files from my website, check the link in the description. I've got a whole video which goes through exactly how to do that. So if that's what you need, go ahead and watch that video first and then follow the steps to open up this giant full sign SVG into Cricut Design Space. One thing I will say is that after you've downloaded the file, if you just try and open the SVG in an internet browser, it will probably end up looking something like this, where it cuts most of the side off. Don't worry about that, that's absolutely fine. It's just because it's such a big project. When you open it in Design Space, it will show the whole thing and it will work. So if you're previewing the file and it looks like this, don't worry, upload it in Design Space, it will all be good. It should load in at 20.831 inches wide. That's the size that I've designed it to be cut at. I know it's a little bit random size, but there we go. And the reason that it is designed to be this size is that all of the sections are pre-made and they'll cut from A4 paper at this size. So that was important for me, that it would be able to cut from A4 rather than 12 by 12, because here in the UK, A4 paper is a lot more common. So that's what I've got most of. So that's why it has so many sections on the base. So this will cut absolutely huge when it's all put together, but like I said, it has been done in sections, so it will cut on your Cricut machine. You don't need to resize anything, it will just all work for you. And I'll just show you in the layers panel. If I scroll all the way to the bottom, you've got these 4 layers here, and they make up that very bottom bit, which you'll then build all the layers on top of. If you click your image and it isn't 20.831 inches wide and 10.53 inches tall, then you should resize it so that it does match those numbers. Otherwise, it won't cut at the size it was intended to be cut at. One of the special things about this design is you can add whatever text you want to the sign at the bottom. I'm going to add some text which says Autumn Blessings. To do that, go into the text tool and I'm going to type out my first word. You want to do it one word at a time, because if I was to type the whole thing and try and cut it, it would be too big for the Cricut to cut. But by doing each word separately, it kind of tricks the Cricut into cutting the words one at a time, so then you will be able to do it and it will fit onto your cutting mat. So here's my word autumn, but I want a bit of a nicer font, so let's double click it and go into the font drop down and have a little look. That one's quite nice. Let's have a look. See? Nah, not fond of that when it actually loads. This always takes the longest time, doesn't it? Trying to find a font. Possibly this one, which is called DTC October Daylight, and it's a Cricut Access font. That's pretty. I like that, and it kind of matches the rest of the design with the nice curved edges and everything. So I'm happy with that one. I just need to add my word blessings. To make sure the font stays the same size for your different words, click your first word, then press duplicate in the top, and use this to make the second word. That way you know your words are going to be exactly the same size. So now I've made this a little bit too big, I need to resize them. Click one of the words in your layers panel, press shift on your keyboard and choose the other one, and then group the layers together, pressing group. But actually, before I hit group, I'm just going to go into Align and align top just to get these correctly in position, and now I'm going to group them. By grouping them, it means I can resize them together so they're going to stay the same font size between my different words, and then I can just play about with how I want it to look. If I zoom in, you can see you've got these little lines between the letters. Don't worry about this, although it looks like your Cricut will cut these lines, actually it won't. So it's clever enough to know that it should join all your letters up when it cuts them. However, if it makes you feel more comfortable to get rid of those lines, then press ungroup to get your words separate again. And then for each layer, go down the bottom and press weld, and that will get rid of those cut lines. So I'll do that on the autumn as well. Just bear in mind that after you weld it, you can't then change the font again. So make sure you're really happy with your font choice before you chose that. I want to cut these from one of the oranges in the design, so an easy way to do that is to click Colour Sync on the top right of the screen. You can see at the bottom I've got my Autumn Blessings in the grey, but I can click and drag it onto one of the other colours and it will change that colour to match. I like that one as the kind of reddy brown rust colour. If I zoom out, let's check the overall positioning. Yep, that's good. I'm happy with the size, so I'm now ready to cut this out. When you're ready to cut, press Make It. It might take a little while because this is a big file, but then you'll see it's all separated out for you. And if you want to, you can change the paper size. As I said, it will all fit on A4, but it might split it onto different mats if you change it to a smaller paper size. So I've got all of my designs here in all of the different colours. So I'm going to go ahead and cut those out, and then I'll show you how to stick together this giant full sign. Here are the main pieces of the layered full sign cut out. And one of the really nice things about this design is that the main sunflower pieces kind of all function as their own standalone layered design. So what I'd recommend you doing is getting all of the layers in position on all the different pieces so that you can check you're happy with the colours and that you haven't forgotten anything. So I'm just going to move this one down a bit so it's easier to see. Here are the main sort of areas that we're going to be building together. And in fact, I might even release some of these as standalone SVGs on my website because I think they'd look lovely in a shadow box. For example, this one, it just looks really nice as it is. So what I'll do now that I've got these into position is start assembling the base, and then we're going to work from the bottom up. So for now, I'm going to move these very carefully over to one side so that we can start putting the base together. Now this design does come with an assembly guide PDF which shows you which layers to stick together in which order. So I would recommend having that open on your computer, or if you're not near your computer then print it out, as that will make things a lot easier, and you can use that when you're putting all these layers together too, just laying them on top of each other to see which one goes in which order. So the base part of this design comes in 4 separate pieces. I'm going to lay them out next to each other so you can see. Now there is a clever little way to put these together so that you know you've got them all positioned in the right place, and that is these little magic triangles. So how this is going to work is you'll line up the triangles and then line up the design along the top so that the line is continuous, and also along the bottom, you know, you've got the straight line here. So you've got 3 points to check everything is lined up. We've got the triangle here, the line along the bottom, and the continuous line around the top. For all of these, they are going to be glued together. You could use double-sided tape also, but I'm going to use glue. And don't worry about these triangles, they're all going to be covered up by other layers so you won't see them on the finished sign. The glue I'm using for this project is called Collall. It's my favourite glue for cardstock projects because it doesn't bend or warp the card like some other glues can do. I put this into these tiny needle tip applicator bottles that I get on Amazon. The little tiny nib makes it super easy to use this and get it into all the little spaces. Collall, I think, is a UK brand, so if you are overseas then you might need to search for another brand. I know two in the USA that work really well for cardstock are Art Glitter Glue and Barely Art Glue. I'll add links to all of those in the description so you can go and check them out. But let's get started with this. So it doesn't really matter which side you work from. Just make sure you've definitely got them in the right order before you start. To check that, get them all lined up, so get your triangles in place. And then you'll find that the design along the top forms that continuous shape when it is all in position. Alright, so let's start on this one, and I'm just going to put some glue down the very right hand side, making sure I keep it to the outside of that triangle because then I know it's not going to be seen from the other side. And now let's get that triangle lined up and the top part. And one of the nice things about glue is if you've not got it quite right, you do have that bit of wiggle room before the glue dries. I'm going to do the same on this one. So a bit of glue down here, keeping to the left of the triangle. And then the second piece can be stuck over the top, lining up all of these. And it is important to take your time to do this because if you mess up and don't get it lined up neatly, then you're going to struggle fitting all the other layers on. So do take your time, go really slowly and pay special attention to this. These 4 pieces are the most important part of the whole design. I have one more bit left over here. So a bit more glue. And then put this one into place. And those leaves will line up at the top. Alright, so there are my 4 pieces. This will be the finished size of the sign when it's all done. Because it's going to have so much card on top of it and we're going to be putting it on the wall, I want to give this some extra stability by adding some sellotape to the back. So let's turn it over. You might want to wait for your glue to dry a little bit more before you turn it over, just in case it accidentally moves it. But I'm going to add some sticky tape down all of these join lines just to make it extra secure. You can see all the tape on there now, and I've also put some over the triangles just to make sure that this doesn't catch on anything when I'm trying to put it on the wall, as we don't want it to rip in these little gaps. Turn it back over. And now we can start with the next layer, which is the white along the bottom. This comes in 2 pieces and it will line up against this sunflower on the right hand side, and then the leaves on the left, and then you will have this bit of overlap in the middle. This layer is going to be glued on, so we're not using our foam pads yet, we're going to stick with the glue. I'll start with this side, turn it over, and then add my glue to the back. Now it is, I'm just going to say, a really silly idea to be gluing this on top of my actual sign, because if I spill any glue it will go on my sign, but I don't have an awful lot of room in here. I was trying to show you everything on camera, so I'll just have to be really careful. Okay, so I'm going to line this up and stick it down. There we are. And then the same with the other side. So this will go along there. Put some glue on. You want to add a good amount of glue because, again, this is going on the wall, so we don't want it all to fall apart. And these bottles are really good because you can go into all the tiny gaps. Let's put this on, and you can see this is doing a brilliant job of hiding all of those triangles in the yellow that we were using to line things up. Alright, that's the second part done. Now let's move on to the frame which sits above. This has several different parts to it. So just like the white, we've got a piece that will go there, and then a piece that sits there and overlaps. And then there's also these bits. So one goes over like that. You can tell where it goes because the bottom of this will line up with this little part in the design. And then you've also got this piece, and again you know where it goes because you've got these three little circles here, and they will line up along there. I'm going to stick the frame onto the main design with foam pads to start putting some depth in here. But before we do that, we need to glue all the pieces of the orange together. So let's just move these out the way. In fact, I'm not going to do that. I need to do it on here, otherwise I'll stick it wrong. So I'm going to line that up again, and then take my glue and add a little bit along where the orange has gone past the join line in the white card. That's where you can put the glue. It's just a little bit down the edge on the top and the bottom, and then take your other piece, line it up against the flowers on the left hand side of the white piece, and then make sure that is exactly in place. And then I've managed to move that one, which wasn't very clever. So then you can just push it down onto that glue, and you know then that the pieces are correct. And I'll do the same with this. Oops, no, that bit is attached. I thought that was my other bit. Where's that gone? Here it is. I'm trying to pull bits off. What am I like? Alright, so this is going to go like that. So I can put a bit of glue on the bottom of this leaf. Make sure it doesn't accidentally stick to your yellow. At this point you might want to move it away from everything else. That probably would have been a sensible idea. And then for this one I'm going to glue these pieces on here. So just put a little bit of glue in there. A bit on the bottom of that one. And that will sit in there. You could also glue it behind if you want to, so that the frame would sort of be going across the top. But as we're going to be sticking other things on, it doesn't really matter either way. So now that that is all glued, we can begin to add foam pads. So let's move it off. Turn it upside down. Okay. The foam pads that I like to use are this Dot and Dab brand. I'll add a link in the description, but I like these because the tops peel off really easily, so they're nice and quick and simple to use. They do come quite big though, so I have cut some in half just with a pair of scissors, which means they'll go a little bit further. This is the largest piece that will be sticking on with foam. And because of that, you need to make sure you have got quite a lot of foam pieces in here to make sure that it's not going to fall off and that it will be really nice and stable. It will have some of our other layered parts covering the top of it, but we'll sort all of that out when we get to those parts. For now, just add a good amount of foam all the way along the design. One thing to bear in mind is you want to be really careful that your foam doesn't go outside the edges of any of the bits of card, because otherwise you'll be able to see it when we turn it back over, and we don't want to be able to see any of this foam. We want it all to be hidden by the card. Okay, so next you want to peel the tops off of all of these foam pads to release the stickiness underneath. I've peeled off all the backing, so let's turn this over and we're going to stick it down. And this is a bit tricky just due to the size. So if you line up one side and just gently place it down, and then line up the other side. The reason we're just dropping it gently is that if it's not quite in the right position, it means we can sort of lift it up again and try again. I think that's looking good, although I've got a bit of a bend in the middle, which makes me think that I haven't quite pulled it tight. That's better. So you want these edges to be straight. Now I can push down to get a good stick on all of that foam. Okay, now that really is all the difficult bits done. For the other parts of the design, just think of it like you're making individual layered designs that we're all just going to stick together. I'm going to place these where they're actually going to be stuck. You can see I've done that a little bit wrong, I think, because it should be lining up with what's underneath. So I'm just going to pull that up carefully. I missed that when I was sticking it down. I think it's because I haven't actually quite stuck it in the right place on the orange. So that should be lining up with that, but I'm not going to stress about it too much. Even though it's not quite aligned, you know, it's not going to impact the design because it will just look like another layer of leaves behind it. But there you go, that's something to check when you're doing yours. Okay, so let's get all of these roughly in their little houses. This is where it's a good idea to refer back to the original photo of this to make sure you know where everything's going to go. I do not have a copy of that with me, so I'm guessing. And I didn't actually make this design. My wonderful illustrator did this one, so I am at a bit of a loss as to where it all goes. But you can kind of work it out anyway based on the edges and where it lines up along here. So I think that's probably there. This little sunflower will be there. I know that's not completely positioned right, but just generally I'm getting it roughly in place now. And then this one is like that. So this lets you see where everything's going to go, which is going to help us work out the layers and which layers should be glued and which ones should be stuck with foam pads. Most of these pieces do not overlap. They do in a couple of little places. For example, this one here, it overlaps this orange and then a couple of little pieces here. But generally they are fairly self-contained. So we're going to work on them one at a time, starting with this one. So if I move my design round a bit, I know it's at an angle. I'm trying to get it so you can see the part I'm working on, which is this one. And then I'm going to pull this off. And because none of this is really going to overlap, just a little bit here, but that's okay, I'm going to start sticking this together on its own. Let's pull apart these layers into the different sections. So we've got the sunflower, the red leaves, and then the green leaves, and then a yellow underneath. For the bottom few layers, I'm going to stick these with some glue. So I'm going to glue all of these first three. You could use foam pads for this one if you want, but I think because it's going to have quite a lot of foam pads anyway, I'm actually just going to glue this one. Okay, so that is that one, and then next is going to be these two layers which make up the kind of reddy orange leaves. And for the base layer, the solid one, I'll put some 3D foam pads on and some in the middle to stop it getting saggy in that middle part. Alright, so now we can peel the tops off of the foam pads. Okay, so line it up, roughly put it into position, and then when you're happy with the alignment, then you can push it down. And then the layer on top, which adds the detail to these leaves, we'll be gluing. Okay, let's line that up. There we go. And then next we have the sunflower. Now these are pretty tricky to line up right, but I'm going to add foam pads on the bottom. The reason they're tricky is that you've got to line all the petals up and get them so that they're perfectly positioned on the layer below. And then to line it up, look for the shapes of the petals, and then there's one which has this kind of right angle taken out of it, and I find this is the easiest one to join together so that you know what you're doing. So I use that one as my guide. For the yellow part of the sunflower, it's up to you if you decide to use foam or glue. I'm going to use foam. I want this sign to be really 3D. Oops, managed to not pull the foam off the bit of paper then. I'm adding a foam pad into every petal. I want this to be stuck well. Just with blue tack. So fingers crossed this one will be the same. And then here's the middle of the sunflower, which I will again add some foam for, just a couple of bits this time, as this isn't going to have anything on top of it. And that's our first segment of the sunflower done. I'm not going to stick this to the sign yet. I'm just going to place it back into position. You can't actually see. Let's move that there. So I've just placed it there, and then we'll move on to the next section, which is this one. Just like we did before, we're going to separate this out. So we've got these little parts of the pumpkin, teeny tiny sunflower, and then 3 layers here of the leaves. So I'm going to use foam pads for this layer to go on top of here. Here we go. And then the next one, which adds the detail to the leaves, I will glue. You can see on the back of this, maybe, my card ripped in a few places when I was trying to cut it. It's really thick card, this colour. My Cricut was not overly happy with it. One thing you can do if you're cutting thick card, and when it finishes cutting, if you don't think your Cricut's cut all the way through, just try and peel a little bit off the corner of the mat, and if it hasn't cut through, you can press the go button on the Cricut again. So don't eject the mat, just press go again, and it will repeat the cut in exactly the same place, and that will generally cut through your card. Next we have the little pumpkin. So I'm going to use foam for the bottom of this one so it stands out. There we are. And then next I'll glue the detail to go on top and stick that down there. And finally there's the little brown stalk of the pumpkin to go in the middle. Just one teeny tiny piece of foam will do perfectly for that. There. Next we have this sunflower, and just like on the first one, I'm going to use a lot of foam for these layers. Here we go. And you can see my card actually ripped a little bit here, so I'm just going to tidy that petal up with a pair of scissors. I don't want that jaggedy edge. And then I can line this up, and of course now I've moved it, it's all out of line, but there we go. And then the next one, some more foam. I'm going to add a bit less this time. It doesn't need a piece in every single petal, as it is a lot smaller than that other sunflower we just did. So let's just go for that. Then line it up. And again, I've moved this now. I had it all lined up. Okay, let's look for my angled petal, which is, I think, that one. Nope, that one. Yeah. Cool. And then the little middle. Just one bit of foam. And on there. So that is the second little floral piece done. Just place it back where it's going to go. There. You can see the difference between all of the layers here and this flat section. It's going to look so good. Move on to the next piece, and it looks like this. Once again, separate the pieces out. So we've got the sunflower, the red leaves, and then the green. I think I will glue these green bits together, kind of like we did on the first section of the sunflower with the bottom green bits that were on there. Nope, you can't see any glue seeping through. That's good. Alright, let's line that up. And then the next layer is the solid for this leaf. And this one will be done with foam pads. Okay. Get it lined up. Gently place it and then push when you're happy. Next is the detail on the leaf, and this one will be glued. And that goes there. Okay, sunflower next. I bet you can guess. It's going to be foam. Alright, let's line this one up. I've moved it again, so let's look for my little right angle leaves, which are down there. There they are. Good. And then next one, yellow. And we'll line it up. Again, I'm looking for those little jaggedy leaves and using that as the guide. So these ones down here. And next is the middle, 2 bits of foam, and stick on. Third piece, done. Line it back up, there it is. And now we have the 4th bit, which is over here. Here we go, this little pumpkin and leaf scenario. Okay, so again we're going to pull it apart. We've got the pumpkin, this leaf underneath, the leaves like we've had before, and then some green and some orange. For the green and orange, I'll use glue, again so we're consistent with the other layers, although on the other ones it was yellow at the bottom rather than orange. But it's the same kind of design, so I'll do the same. Just put a little dot of glue in these circles. Can you still see what I'm doing? I think I've moved too far down my craft mat. And that goes like that. And I will also use glue for the next lot of leaves. Line that up. Perfect. Next is these ones, and for the solid layer we will use foam pads. I'll be quite interested to see how long this video ends up at when it's been edited. I think it's going to be a long one. I'll glue that one on top. Next are these ones, and I'll use some foam for the bottom. You could also glue this one, as this is kind of a layer that none of the other parts have, this extra little leaf shape. But I like 3D, so let's go for foam. There. And then glue this piece on top to add the detail to that leaf. My glue is getting a bit stringy now because I've had the lid off this whole time. I probably should have been putting the lid back on whenever I stop using it. But I never do that, and I always regret it and then forget again. Okay, there's this one. Oh no, I've got this out of position. No, that's not right. Trying to get these big bits at the side. That's right. Okay. And then I'll put some glue on this pumpkin. This one's easier to line up because you've got the detail that kind of shows you which way up it is. And then lastly we have this little stalk which I will put a teeny tiny piece of foam in. If I've got one small enough, I might have to cut it smaller again. Let's see. Nope, that just fits. And then that will just sit on there. Okay, we are very nearly there now. So this bit will sit here, like that. And then we've got these sunflowers from down the bottom. This one's pretty simple, just foam pads on both of them to add the sunflower layers. And then stick it on. I have messed it up again. I think that's right. Yeah. There we go. I suppose what you could actually do is once you've layered it together just before we started, you could turn it over and add a little arrow or something to show the top so that you're not having to line it up again when you stick it together like I'm doing. There we go, sunflower done. And then this time I will put it where it's supposed to go here, which is there. All right, so now we can see this looking amazing. Before I stick all these edges on, I'm going to get my text in place. So this will be whatever you chose to make it say in the beginning when we were in Design Space. So mine is Autumn Blessings. I'm going to line that B up over the gap to sort of hide it a little bit. And to start with, I'm just going to put all the letters in place, make sure I've got it spelt right. And also make sure it'll fit. That would be helpful. Okay. You could cut the text from adhesive vinyl or even heat transfer vinyl and stick it on instead if you don't want to do it from cardstock. But I wanted it to all match and kind of continue this rustic folk arty sort of look. So I'm happy with that general positioning, although I will try and make it a bit straighter once it's stuck. So I'm going to glue these down. Move this up so you can see what I'm doing. Oh, there's a little bit in there that shouldn't be there. Oh, and another bit here. I was having issues with this card. Even with a double cut, it was still struggling. Okay. Try and be really neat adding the glue to the back of the text, because this is what people will actually read. It's what the focus will be on when they first see it. So you don't want the glue to poke out the sides. Add that around there. And then, oh, don't do that. Don't drop your glue all over your sign like I just did. Oh dear. Right, let's straighten that. And then drop it roughly in place. Move that out of the way. And use that glue with that drying time to wiggle it so that your text is straight. There we are. Now I can start on the other letters. Bit of glue on the back of my B. This one I might need to hold in place a bit because it's going over that join in the card. So I just want to make doubly sure it's going to be stuck. If you wanted to, you could draw a really, really, really light pencil line so you've got a straight line with a ruler, or even just put a ruler in place to line the text up against. That probably would have been a smart thing to do. But I've only just thought of it. And then my little eye, let's add a teeny bit of glue on that dot. Put it there. Awesome. Right, next step, sticking all of the flowers together. So when we're sticking the flowers on, we need to be mindful of the orange frame around the sign. I'm going to start with this side to show you what I mean. So if I was to glue this onto here, then it would end up slanted because the yellow bit is on one layer, but this orange has foam on it, so it's sitting further up, and it would end up kind of like that. The same thing would happen if I added foam to all of this. So then it would be the right height here, but this would then be double the height because we've got the foam pad under the orange and we'd be adding extra foam. So what we need to do instead is a mixture of the two. We're going to put foam pads in this section and then glue this section. And that means this will be perfectly level on top of the two different colours. I'll do the foam first. And we know that this is going to cover all of those edge parts. Let's just line that up. Apart from there's a little gap in here and some gaps under this side. So I'll add some foam in here along the bottom. And you want to try and make it so that the foam doesn't go anywhere that you can see the pale yellow through, otherwise you'll see that foam. And you might find it easier to put the foam directly on the back like this. But then, of course, you need to be careful that you're not putting it anywhere that's going to sit on top of there. So it's a little bit half of one, no, what's the saying? 6 of one, half a dozen of the other to get it lined up. So I need a little bit more in there. And just like when we were doing those layers, the sunflower layers, you want to make sure you have got enough pieces that it's going to be a really good stick and we're not going to have any bits falling down. So that's looking pretty good. Peel the tops off. And then where is my glue? Here it is. Let's put some glue over this part. And it's going to come all the way down there. And does it cover that leaf too? Let's just see. Yes, it does. There. All right, so now when I stick this on, it's going to end up perfectly level. Let's line it up. Perfect. All right, let's move to the next bit. I have my microphone back, and this time we're going here. So this one, again, we've got the raised bit here, and then this bit can all have foam pads. So it's only this tiny little piece along the bottom that will glue. So for this one, I think it will actually be easier to add the foam pads on the back of this section. And that's really mainly because we've got a lot of yellow on here that's still going to be seen. So it would be a little tricky to miss all of that if we were putting the foam directly on the yellow. There we go. That'll line up there. And then the glue, just going to put some along here. It doesn't matter if you're not 100% accurate, if it goes over a bit, as long as there will be some to help it stick. So I can line that up. Stick it down. I actually didn't line that up very well, but never mind. One of the nice things is that even if your leaves aren't completely lined up, like this one now isn't, it still kind of looks like it's supposed to be like that because there's so many colours elsewhere. Right, next bit. So we've got this part here, and this overlaps the orange along the bottom and also along this leaf. So like this. The whole of the sunflower pretty much is going to be foamed, and then just a little bit of glue down the bottom of that leaf. So again, I'll put the foam on this section. For this one again, I think it'll be easier. I'd love to know what you think of this design, and if you make it, what I'd really love is to see a photo. So please, please, please send me your photos to sarah@craftwithsarah.com, or you can join my Facebook group, and there's a link to that in the description of this video. And there are loads of lovely crafters in there, and we love sharing photos of our projects. So I'd love it if you joined that and became part of our community. So, I just realised you couldn't see that. Let's line this up. There. Looking good. A couple more bits left. And this one is a little bit more tricky because the leaf on here overlaps the sunflower here. So there's two things you can do. You could either glue the sunflower down first like this, which is a nice way to do it because then the leaf will be on top. Or you can add an extra layer of foam underneath the sunflower so that the sunflower will be on top. So it's really up to you. I think I'll make it so that the sunflower is on top, so I'll need to do that last. My piece here, this is only going to need a little bit of foam inside this leaf. Most of it will be glued. Let's do the foam. And this one I'll put it straight on here. And I'm pretty sure all of this bottom section can have foam on it, like that. And then glue along all here. So all of this and that little leaf, all of that can be glued. Okay. Might even add some glue in here for where that green leaf is going to go. Right, let's stick this in place. There. And now it's just the sunflower. So I think actually it only is going to need one layer of foam, just looking at what's under there. So what I need to do is make sure, oh no, I've messed up the alignment again. There. So I don't want to put any foam in this part where the leaf is, otherwise it won't sit on top, it will just jam together. So turn it upside down. I'm going to avoid all of this area here with the foam, and just put it everywhere else. Although actually an even better idea is to put the foam directly on here. Then I know I'm not getting it over that leaf. Okay, I want one more piece in the middle. I'm very much running out now. There we go. Then this can go, and I've messed up the positioning yet again. There we are. Push it down, and now that is lining up beautifully over that leaf. And there we have it, our full sunflower sign finished. So well done if you've stuck with me to this point in the video. That's very impressive. I hope you enjoy making this, and I think it will go a lot quicker when you're making it yourself because obviously you don't have to talk through all the steps, so you can speed up a little bit. But I really hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoy this project as much as I do. I absolutely love the design. It's probably in my top 5, if not my top 3 designs that I've ever done on my website. And I really hope you like it too, so please let me know in the comments what you think. I hope you enjoyed this video on how to assemble this beautiful autumnal off the mat sign. If you make this project, I'd really love to see a photo, so please email it to me or share it in my Facebook group. Links for both of that are in the description of this video, along with the link to get this free SVG. Don't forget, if you want to follow along with this year's Halloween Craft Countdown, you can sign up for the daily projects at craftwithsarah.com/Halloween 2021. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow for day 4.